Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games from the Game Pass collection, bringing you 3D perspectives from varying skill range. I am the 10.0 on the Richter scale, Andrew. With me, our little rumble, Keith.
Hello.
And the one who always has a quake in her belly, Liz.
Hey guys.
And this week was a listener pick. The listener requested that we go way back in time and we try out Quake from id Software. Quake is a first-person shooter. Well, it's not just a first-person shooter, it's the first-person shooter. This game originally came out in 1996, and a lot of people describe it as the first-person shooter because, I mean, Doom came before it, but this is the first time where a game was actually rendered in full 3D polygons, and you're actually able to properly aim and shoot. So now it has been remastered and brought to the consoles, and of course still PC. But going around... Keith, I really want to hear from you. You seem like you were really enjoying this game. Keith, tell me, was this a gamer
I feel like
pass?
you always want one of us to go first, but it just...
I know.
It helps for segues, so it's fine.
Okay.
So, let me pause for a second. The listener that requested this, is this my favorite listener? Is this the one I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it doesn't change my opinion of the game, so I'm sorry, but my goodness, I hated this. For what its time was, I'm not gonna take away from that, and I don't want to spend a whole episode going, well, for its time. It's 2021, and I just didn't have fun playing it. It's not a game that's made for 2021. I'm sure it was great when it came out, but I couldn't bring myself to play it. I did have some fun when we were doing multiplayer, and so we'll talk about that. But otherwise, no, this is a pass for me.
For me, it's a game. I didn't play it back when it came out, and I apologize in advance if I call this Doom a lot. Cause
yeah, you kept calling it Doom.
I don't know why. I know it's a different game, so I apologize in advance. But I had a lot of fun with it. I wasn't crazy excited about it, but it was just like good, simple fun that I didn't really have to think too much about. And I will say, I started off with the easy difficulty, and... but then with the expansions and stuff, I went up in the difficulty. And easy is too easy, I think. But I also, with the new enemies coming and everything, I just, I chickened out.
So it's difficult for me to say. So I guess for simplicity's sake, I'm going to give it a game. But I agree with you, Keith. It is hard for me to be like, hey, young kid, check out Quake. Like, I don't think... younger audience will appreciate Quake, but me, someone in my 30s, I grew up with old school first person shooters and everything like that. I did not play the original Quake at the time either. My family was very poor, so at the time, Quake was the game to test your computer. Like, it took a lot for the time for what you needed, graphically, in order to run Quake. So there was no way my family could afford that. So I did not play Quake when it originally came out. So I always heard of it. I always knew it. I played a little bit of different Quake games later on, but yeah, so now going back to it, I understand a lot of these mechanics are old and everything like that, but I know how the mechanics work. So for me, I did have a lot of fun. At first, I didn't care for it, but as I kept playing it, I was really digging it. So if you're an older person like me, check out Quake, but if you're younger, yeah, you're probably not going to have fun with it.
You know what's funny is I'm the oldest person on this podcast.
I know.
And I'm just like,
you're just like,
no, Andrew, it doesn't matter if you're old.
It's just because you're just like a crotchety old curmudgeon.
Yeah, that's part of it. But see, the thing that stinks, and I know I already said this to you. Maybe I won't say that every time because I said a bunch to you last night. But I know that I already said this at one point. But it's funny to me because I always think about GoldenEye. I'm like, man, those were the golden days of video games. Like, I would love to just go back and play some GoldenEye. And I kind of got a taste of doing that with Quake, and I was like, no. I don't want to go back and play GoldenEye. I want to go and play new fun games with my friends. That game would not be fun to play right now. It would just be lackluster.
Yeah. But I also wanted to ask you guys, all right, so I know we kind of touched a little bit. Have any of you played any Quake games before? Not just Quake 1?
No.
Was Unreal Tournament ever part of Quake?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if they were related because I think I played a couple of those back on the PlayStation. I might have played like in one of the newer Quakes, but none that I remember. And probably like Liz, if you had put the picture of it up there and put a gun to my head and said, name this game, I would have just gone, that's Doom.
So as I said, I played a little bit of Quake. I played Quake Arena 3. I think it was on Dreamcast because I had Dreamcast. I remember it got released at that time.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was the first time I played a Quake game. But the one I actually really got into was Quake 4, which was on the Xbox 360. It was like I believe a launch title. And which, after playing Quake and researching this game for this episode, I kind of learned out Quake 4 apparently is like one of the most hated Quakes. And I actually thought it was pretty cool. So, I mean, granted, this is coming from me who never played any of the Quakes. So maybe it's just like someone who is, a huge fan of Quake. It's bad for the series, but I don't know. I remember at the time I thought Quake 4 was actually really cool on the Xbox 360. So those were the kind of my only 2 experiences with Quake. But, I've heard of this game, plenty of times. So this was kind of like my first real intro to it as well, like getting back to the original and getting back to the basics. So anyway, getting to the episode though, the story of Quake is, this is a game that came out in 96. So its story is kind of all over the place and sparse. So you are some sort of a medieval guy? Future space soldier guy? I couldn't quite tell. I know eventually, you're just this soldier who is trying to stop the armies of the Horde. Well, they're the Eldritch. So this game, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but this game is based very much on Lovecraft lore.
Huh? You love the
I don't know.
You love loving Lovecraftian.
I honestly I could not pick up on that until I actually read about it, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can kind of see it a little bit.
What
Well, the main bad guy is from Lovecraft.
Like,
Yeah.
Is it like a Cthulhu type of deal?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to bring something up story-wise real quick.
Do not spoil
Andrew, you know
it,
what I'm going to
Liz.
say.
Do not spoil this game for
the
people.
bad guy, and I read this in the text, which comes up really, really slow, and you can't like fast forward it or it just skips it. But it is Shub / and then I'm going to spell it out because I'm not saying it on the podcast. Niggurath. Now, with speaking in the United States, if it's like Nigeria with 1 G, it's pronounced differently. And then like lemur, UR, is pronounced ER. I can't find a non-racist way to say this name. So I looked it up. And I guess Lovecraft was a giant racist, according to all of the internet.
Seriously?
And I actually looked up, like there's a South Park episode that had the same bad guy. There's a lot of race in this episode. Let's just say that it was destroyed because it didn't tolerate white meat. So they were sacrificing
Wait,
other
what?
people.
Wait, this is like the original story of like
this
Lovecraft?
is South Park.
Oh.
This is South Park.
Like when Andrew
with the
asked if this
same
was from
named
Lovecraft.
like bad guy.
Okay.
It was a lot of racist things.
Thank you, Liz, for the
And
most
so
tiptoey.
I just want to know what the creators of this game thought of when they saw that name in Lovecraft lore and were like, let's put that in a game. You couldn't do something similar? How were they pronouncing it in their head?
They could have just called him Shibby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just going to go ahead and not touch any of that question, though. I'm. That's,
Well, because it's like...
that's just a fun fact about Quake. That's all that is to me.
Now that it's coming back, because I read, I don't know if it's true, but that they were big Lovecraft fans. But it's just like, nobody thought that when creating this. And also, now that it's come back, nobody playing it is questioning this. I mean, reading the story is like really annoying, so I understand why people skip it. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, I don't know, future Quake games, I mean, maybe if they use this character again, maybe change the name a little bit.
From
Is
what I played
one
with
and
Quake 4,
done?
and from what I looked, Quake ends up becoming more like sci-fi. So like this one is a very mixture of like sci-fi and then like medieval dark fantasy. So that's why it's kind of like, oh, you're kind of in castles and, citadels and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of brick layout. But then every once in a while you're on a spaceship and, you're going through slip gates that are teleporting you. And then you have a laser or a lightning gun. So I know in Quake 2, you're straight up like space warrior going and fighting space monsters kind of thing like that. So I feel like the future games kind of get rid of a bit of the Lovecraft lore on it.
Yeah, because like I was noticing people playing it on Twitter. People were like showing pictures of like, look what I'm playing, and not a single person. Like I don't know. It just
I did not notice it until you pointed it out, and then you're like, "Wait, seriously, that's the guy's name?" And I was like, "I guess."
I just don't like the name. That's what I'm saying.
So Keith, you must have been thrilled about this story.
Sure.
Did you know anything about the story? What was going on?
No. Nope. Mm-mm. Not even a little bit.
I mean, granted, many old games were like this, where they really did not have a story. Like, Doom had a little bit of one. And most of the story, the way you mostly got story back in the day was reading the manual. And so obviously if you're someone now picking this game up and playing it, you have no idea what's going on. There's no intro cutscene. There's a as Liz was saying, some text dialogue at the end of every episode that you beat, kind of explaining what's going on. But yeah, if you're just someone fresh coming out of this, you're just shoot bad guys. There you go. That's the game. So yeah, the story is definitely not something you're playing, this game for.
And the text is hard to read as well.
Oh my gosh.
So for me,
it's so slow.
Why should I strain? Well, not only that, but just the lettering.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's why should I struggle to read this when there isn't much effort put into the story anyway?
Nope, that's why you skip it.
You're offended by it sounds like.
No, I'm just saying it's not a huge part of the game.
They need to respect your time.
If there's 4 pages of any type of dialogue, except that, you know what I mean? There's no talking except for you hear these zombie grunts.
Or you going, ooh, oh.
Yeah, you jump over a
that?
1 centimeter thing on the floor and you're like, oh, it's really? Toughen up, guy.
I don't know. I've seen you do a little jump, and you kind of do the same noise.
Oh yeah.
No, I do not.
Well, especially if it's one of those little trip jumps. You trip over something, then you just run 4 steps real quick. I was planning on doing that. I was definitely intentional.
So yeah, you're definitely not playing this game for the story, but I do at least like to. So this game has the original 3 expansions and then 1 additional expansion that's brand new that came out with this remake. And as you're playing through the expansions, they add a little bit more of the story and explaining what's going on, but still overall it's not that interesting. I'm just going to put it out there. But gameplay though, that's obviously the main reason you're playing this. You're going back into the olden days and seeing how they played video games back in '96.
Which something that I immediately pointed out to Andrew was, why do they force you to take health damage? So there's this elevator that is underwater, and it's not long enough for you to hold your breath. Because I actually immediately went from the top to that hole, and so it does it deliberately, and I thought that was kind of lame.
I just didn't.
Yeah, or you end up falling in a super deep hole and you have to take height damage. That happens a couple times too. I don't know. It is a weird mechanic. I remember because even Doom did that a couple times. There's just some old games where it's you gotta run through lava, and it's just this is not a good mechanic. But
because if you save it and you're kind of low health, and then there's immediately monsters after, that stinks. Because that's another thing. You have to constantly save your game.
Yeah.
Because then if you die, you have to go all the way back.
Yes.
So I'm actually really good at it. Yeah. I did not struggle with that. I think there's one time that it sent me back 10 seconds, and I was like, dang it.
You literally shoot 2 guys, save. 2 guys, save.
No, if I have an annoying enemy, so all
of them?
Well, the spider lady, the jellyfish, and then there's also a yeti, abominable snowman. Yeah, that annoying fish thing that jumps out. These are my first reactions to them. And then the Texas chainsaw guy, he was all right. But the yeti that shoots at you, yeah. So if there was an annoying enemy, I would just save after, and I'm don't have to deal with you again anytime soon.
I respect that. See, so I knew I could save my game because I was saving as I went. I didn't even think until maybe about 3 hours of playing into this game to save it in the middle of a life. So I did a lot of dying and repeating and dying and repeating and
the whole level?
Yeah. And jeez. I'll be honest, that may have contributed some factor of why I just was not pleased playing this game. But at the same time, once I got the grasp of that down, and I was kind of just doing what Liz did, as if I was oh, hey, I just got past the part where I feel I don't want to deal with that again, or maybe I'm halfway through the level, I just, call it a safe place and save. My enjoyment level only went up slightly. It didn't change to a point where I was wow, this is great. It just made the frustration level of the game less to me. But all in all, I just didn't find myself having fun playing it.
Yeah. I will say this is, I think, the biggest turnoff for like newer people if they end up picking up Quake is, we're just so spoiled with autosave. And this game obviously has none. You literally could play 3 levels without dying. If you don't save, all of that's gone.
Yeah, I think that levels it should automatically save for you.
Yeah. I mean, I understand this game is a very slight touch up. Like, it's not even really a remake or a remaster. It's like a slight touch up. Like, it has, better frame rates, slightly better graphics, and like that's it. Besides that, it's still very much the base game. And I get that, but come on, you could at least put in autosave and at least having the options to turn on or off autosave. For people who really want the pure authentic, they can turn off autosave, but at least have the option. Like, come on. Like, because that would really kill the game for me. But here's a pro tip, if anyone is playing. If you press start and hit right bumper, it does a quick save. And I taught Liz that right away, and yeah, that's why she always saved, because it was just really quick to just press start, right bumper, boom, you're saved.
And then I would also save too, because there's certain water that will hurt you and other water that doesn't. So if I was going to jump in water, I would always save before I jumped in.
That's my biggest annoyance with Quake. Water did not make sense. You see green, nasty water, I'm like, surely this is going to hurt me, and I jump in it, perfectly fine. Then there's crystal clear blue water. Oh, this is going to be safe. No, apparently it's poisonous or acid, and it's just like...
In all fairness, though, you kept jumping into lava all the time as well, so it's like, does it really matter the color? Well, I feel like you would have fallen into it anyway.
Playing with you, anyone would jump in lava, so...
Wow!
Maybe it was like boiling hot water, and you just didn't see the bubbles.
Maybe, I don't know, but I just found the graphical inconsistency with the water just really annoying.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
For me, I think that my biggest annoyance was the lack of a map, because especially the original game, everything is so samey with the corridors. And so for me, I kept going back to the same area and be like, oh wait, I've already been here. I see a bunch of enemies. And then I think later on they do better with making the landscape different. Like, they actually have like this broken landscape that kind of like turns, and it's more dynamic. Yeah, and it's more dynamic, and it's easier to tell where you are, because you're like, oh, I've been here, and that area is blue. And so for me, I just think the old game where there isn't these complex layers, I think that a map would definitely be beneficial. And same with like some of the secret areas are so easy to find. Like, it's like a button, but it's actually a secret area. But some of the harder ones, I didn't really know what to look for at the beginning. And so, I mean, the map could show like a little gray area, like, oh, there's a secret area nearby. Or, it could just be like, well, do you know what? We're not going to tell you what to look for, and we're not going to show you. But either way, I would have enjoyed the map.
I think with a map, if you can see at least just a more defined area of where you are, it gives you the ability to be like, I don't know, just feel out the space better and look in better corners. Whereas if you don't really know where you are outside of like, okay, I'm trying to remember the landmarks around me, which are largely all samey, because spoiler alert, they didn't put a lot into the graphics, or didn't have a lot for graphics at that point, I should say. I can't fault them for what they did. But yeah, I think a map would be nice. But again, if you're going to remaster a game like this and you're going to port it over to the Xbox, put it in an autosave. Like, there's got to be like some just kind of just generic built-on autosave that's designed it somewhere in this world of video games at this point. Just like, hey, here's some pre-built code. You don't even have to do any work. Just slap it in there and it'll work.
So I'm going to disagree with you guys slightly. Don't get me wrong. So for newer people, yes, I think a map would be helpful, but I did not have any issues navigating. This is one thing I really enjoyed my time with Quake. I did not think it was that hard to navigate. The maps are very small, and for the most part, they're generally pretty linear, and every once in a while you have to do some backtracking. And for the most part, there was only a handful of times I truly was lost. But this is what kind of impressed me, was like the level design, from a game from '96, because I played quite a bit of the original Doom, and as you get farther in some of those levels, I find Doom so confusing. I get lost in those maps like crazy, but like I said, there was only maybe a handful of times in Quake I got lost. So I actually had a lot of fun. I fully understand if you're someone who's lost and you're walking around through empty hallways because you killed all the monsters, yeah, it's going to be a little boring. So I think it would have been okay to add a map, and once again, you can turn it off if you're, a purist. But overall, I don't think it needed a map.
I don't think it needed the map. Like, I would have liked one, and I am on that hill. I would just say it's not a hill I'm going to die on. It's because I agree with you. Like, the maps really aren't that big. I think I just myself had a problem with the backtracking, and it didn't always make sense. And I think this, as much as I don't care that there's no story because whatever was there I didn't care about, at the same token, if you have some pieces of like, this is what you know you're looking for, you'll be like, oh, I should go back to this room. So even without a map, I just would have liked some guidance of what the pathing I needed to take was. Instead, I just found myself running in a lot of circles, you know, maybe duck off here and there and be like, oh, hey, here's an enemy. And I would just run around and kill as many enemies until it said I killed all of them, or like close enough that I was like, okay, the exit's got to be nearby somehow now. And then I would just look for an exit. Like that was really my strategy in getting through every level. I never felt like I was lost so much as I just felt like, I don't know, I stumbled my way through it and took longer than I should have as a result.
Did it say on the screen how many enemies you killed?
Yeah.
Oh,
you could if you hit the
back button?
Start button or back button.
Is that the back button anymore? What is that really called?
Technically, they're called tiles and menu. I know. I always get this argument too about the controller buttons.
So I think that technically,
but tiles doesn't exist anymore, and neither does menu. Both of those things were turned into the jewel button. So even though Microsoft still uses the tile and menu button, I always call them the back button and the start button. But no, technically it's tiles and menu.
Tell us, listeners, if you're out there, tell us what you call those buttons. I would like to know. I'm assuming it's just all start and back because that's the right answer, but let us know.
I also wanted to ask, the space guys in those levels, they sounded like zombies, which is interesting because they have actual zombies in the game. And the dogs kind of looked like zombies, which you're not petting dogs in this game, you're shooting them. And
they don't have buttholes.
Well, you never get a chance to see their backside.
Zombies? And why do they sound like monsters when they look like people? And I didn't understand that.
Once again, I'm pretty sure this is something that explained in the manual. But no, they are zombies because I think they're supposed to be like you, just turned undead. Because if you ever remember playing co-op, your character looks exactly like them. Except, they are kind of bloody looking and more zombie-ish or undeadish looking. But they look like your character.
I did like that certain enemies were killed easier with different weapons, which I didn't realize until you told me that. Except for, of course, like the grenades would kill the zombies because if you didn't use those, they would spring back up.
Yeah.
But for me, I did like that the weapons changed too with the expansions. But I like the weapons in this game.
Yeah, the weapons are very simple. They very much just serve their purpose. Like this game, the base Quake, if you're just playing the very beginning one, there's not a lot of weapons. You have, pump shotgun, double barrel shotgun, nail gun, super nail gun, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, landing gun, and then your hatchet. Like that's it. It's like a very small number of weapons, and they all just serve their purpose. I thought they were fun, but there was never like, I don't know, I could use any of them and just be fine with it. I just think I will say, I think it was slightly lazy that it's like, here's the nail gun. Now it's the super nail gun. And it's just like, it shoots nails faster, but it's still essentially the same gun.
I think the whole game is simple. What? Maybe it was a design pick with that because the whole game is simple.
It is. I mean, I don't fault it for it. It was just, for me, I was just like, there wasn't anything that I was like, I don't know, that made it so cool and iconic. Like, Doom is very iconic for its BFG. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I never really remember people being like, Quake because the nail gun. It essentially is a machine gun, just it shoots nails.
Quake was more built on it's like built for speedrunners, I feel like.
It is.
Is that really the big, or at least maybe at this point, but I even kind of feel like at the time, it was like meant to be, hey, go through this as quickly as you can and compare it with your friends. So it's supposed to just be like an absolute sprint, run and gun.
Yes. Okay, so I guess I take a little bit back about what I say about the weapons because I guess the one iconic weapon that Quake is really known for, it's the rocket launcher. Because this was the game that popularized the rocket launcher jump.
Okay, I figured you had to do that at some point. There was something I was trying to get to. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to rocket jump, but I'm just going to kill myself, so I'm going to move along.
So this is a game that, many other games, coming forward, have, popularized or, altered a little bit. Like Halo turned into a grenade jump. Team Fortress actually does the rocket jump. But yeah, this is the game that first started with it. So it's rocket launcher, I guess, is the most iconic. I also think it's the most goofiest looking weapon.
How were you pushing me when we were playing multiplayer?
Just shooting you. Oh my gosh.
Because Andrew kept falling into the lava over and over and over again. And I think I did it once.
Liz.
No, I didn't. And I only fell in once, and he died, and I didn't. So he kept pushing me, trying to get me to die. And so I was curious how he was doing that, because I wasn't, trying to shoot people on my team. And also, it didn't help that with the I have the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lag like crazy. And then all of a sudden, like, elevators will disappear and then come back. And so for me, it was like the added challenge of like having like a punk teammate pushing me.
Call me punk teammate.
Yeah,
Don't worry. Keith avenged you. Playing with Keith, I'm sitting there trying to jump on these platforms, and Keith just lightning guns and shoves me off the platform into lava. He did that to me a couple times.
That's karma.
I think my favorite one was, I don't even know if we had figured it out yet or whatever, but I just straight up pushed you off. You just weren't paying attention. You were just looking up that, and we were on this moving platform. And next thing I know,
that was you. Oh, I thought I hit my controller.
Of course, it was me.
You scumbag.
Oh, it was the greatest. That was the most fun I had in this game, was just pushing Andrew off of things. It was really quite amusing. I mean, you had your revenge, though. There was at least once you shot me midair while I was trying to jump across something.
Yeah. No. We both jumped at the same time and collided midair, and we both fell off the cliff. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I will say, this is, I think, the best thing about Quake. Even if you're someone, even if you're a young gamer, this is actually something I would recommend. If you have some friends to play with, because this game does couch co-op as well. This game offers co-op, so you can play all the campaign, all the levels together, and there's also deathmatch multiplayer. And I think the multiplayer in Quake is still a lot of fun. It's very basic and everything, but I still was having a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with deathmatch and a lot of fun with the co-op campaign.
I was not having fun with deathmatch.
Oh my god, we played one match.
Deathmatch?
Keith was so salty.
Is that just like 1v1?
No, yeah, that's the one we were playing where we were shooting each other. And
it started at 1v1.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but we're playing this one map that there was just space mirrors everywhere, and we just kept falling off.
No, you kept falling off. I was doing well.
Every time I shot Andrew and he fell off, he fell into a space portal that brought him back onto one of the floating space mirrors.
But you would fall off and die.
And then, I would shoot him and then jump off. Or the worst part was the few times that I would shoot you and you'd fall off, and I wouldn't even get a kill for it. It would just count it as a suicide kill on yours. It's like, this is disappointing. So I was not amused.
Not a fan of the multiplayer.
No. Although we had our two heroes there that just ran to the end of the map every single time, but always waited for us. It doesn't matter who's hosting the game. Anyone who gets to the end of the map can just do it. And then we had these two random people join us, and they would just sprint through, kill everything, find every secret. And
we were just stumbling around trying to figure out where to go.
Pushing each other off of ledges. And I think there was one time they were actually just standing there at the end watching us push each other off of things until finally one of us stumbled across the finish line and just ended it. So if you're out there and it was you, I guess, somehow, that was pretty funny. I appreciate your commitment to helping us get through.
As we more killed each other than killed the enemies.
They sound very polite.
I think so. I don't know. I really hope
they made a couple comments when we would go into the traps, and they would type in "dead meat" as we'd slowly get crushed by the walls. So they were supportive.
Yeah, they were all about us. They were friendly.
One more thing that I want to mention with gameplay is how lame the boss fight, I'll call it, is.
The final boss fight.
And I think it's so funny.
It's pretty anticlimactic.
Andrew warned me, like, oh, this is what you got to do. And I, like, panicked, hit the button. But for me, that was the most... I hate boss fights. So I guess I kind of liked it. But at the same time, I was really disappointed.
I mean, in the later expansions, you legitimately fight a boss, so... I guess they correct it later on.
Also, it's not a spoiler to say that you don't actually fight him?
I guess. He kind of just sits there and you fight his minions and then you teleport in them and you win.
I mean, I don't think we can really spoil a game from, 1996?
Yeah. I guess that's true. At this point, you've had plenty of time. And either way, that's not like a story spoiler alert.
Yeah. I think you're good without spoiling anything.
But yeah, I had to look it up. I was getting frustrated in the final boss because I was trying to figure it out. And then I was like, what is going on? I was like, clearly this ball is doing something. And then finally I looked up. They're like, oh, I just teleport to the boss. Like, okay. And then I was like, that's kind of lame, but whatever. So Keith, was there anything you enjoyed single player wise playing this game?
I can't think of anything. I didn't hate every single second of it. I was just doing it.
It just felt old.
Yeah, it just, again, I know I already said it, but I want to feel nostalgic about GoldenEye, but I think at this point I just go, that was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to have the fun I had while I had it. But I just don't want to play it. It's 2021, and there's 2010 games that I'm like, I'd rather play that. There's so much more to be offered now. So unless you really want the experience of like, what was some of the earliest games, like I'd call it a history project if it was before your time of gaming, be it, because of your age or just from when you started playing, whatever it may be. If you want to go back and play it for that, but otherwise, honestly, I don't think there's any good reason to go pick this up, to play it.
I think there's a lot of newer games that I've really disliked.
Yeah,
and this one,
sure.
I'm
not saying
feel
that
like
all good games or all new games are good games.
I know, but for me, I found myself enjoying it this week, and I think for me, and this is I have no nostalgia with it. I didn't play it. I think it's just really relaxing for me.
Yeah.
Because this is this has been a stressful week, and when I was playing it, I felt so relaxed and just zenned out. And if I made the difficulty hard, it probably would have been a little bit more frustrating. But even some of the enemies I thought were annoying, I didn't get super frustrated with it. And so for me, that's why I don't know why I like this game so much. I don't think it's got everything going for it.
See, I didn't find the controls relaxing in any way. Again, I wasn't hyper tense the whole time I was playing it, but just they're so loose and fast that I was like, I'm just back and forth, and I don't know. I felt I was kind of all over the place with the controls. I'm not a good first-person shooter by nature. That's 100% part of it, but I didn't like the way the controls were played on this.
You know what? I actually will agree with you on this, Keith. I mean, obviously this game came out in 96. Consoles really weren't much of a thing. So this game was built for keyboard and mouse. So it obviously has just now been ported over to controller. And there is it does say aim assists, but I didn't really feel an aim assist going on at all.
Oh, I definitely felt it.
Oh, you did?
I didn't touch any of the things at the beginning, the modifications. And I actually saw when enemies were super far away, it would ping it even if it was like a centimeter or two away. I think it worked.
Oh. See, I didn't notice too much of it. For me, though, this game obviously is on Game Pass PC as well. I highly recommend you play it on Game Pass PC. I thought it was fine with the controller. If you don't have PC option, controller's perfectly fine. But just to actually play the way the game was meant to be played, I thought it was so much more fun on the console or the PC. And there's also another reason why you should play it on PC, which we'll get into later. But for me, for this being the first person shooter, major one, there's a lot that actually still really impresses me with this game. I actually think the AI is pretty competent. They're not something, super intelligent, but I mean, when you're talking, as Keith's saying, GoldenEye, if you play those games, the AI is dumb as bricks. But in this one, enemies will actually push forward on you and try to encroach on your area that you're going a bit. Well, and there's also friendly fire. If an enemy gets hit by another enemy, they get pissed off at their friend and they start fighting each other. That's actually pretty impressive for, a game that came out in 96.
It's cool too that when I was playing on the easy mode, they really didn't follow me too much. And it wasn't until I went into normal that I noticed that the enemies would actually follow me. They would jump across ledges and stuff. Yeah. So for me, I also thought that it was cool that they implemented it in a way that helped with the easy, normal, hard. See,
I kind of just felt like they sort of zigzagged towards you. That's all they really did. It was just kind of this left, right, and I get it. It's time and age and all that, but I don't know. I didn't think they were overly intelligent. I don't think I noticed them attacking each other. So I will say that's a really cool feature to be able to have implemented back in that time. But outside of that, I don't know. They kind of just either sprinted right at you or just zigzagged at you.
I saw them fighting each other once, and then I asked Andrew about it. I'm like, are they fighting each other?
Well,
it was the scorpion.
Yeah. But I mean, there's an achievement to have, an enemy kill another enemy. So
oh, I did have that
achievement. Yeah, there's an achievement based on this to have them kind of fight each other.
I also think Keith didn't like the graphics. I'm trying to think of things that Keith might have liked about the game.
No, well, again, I don't know. If we're going to go towards graphics, I'll just jump right in, and I'm going to say
Yeah, that was a transition.
they were all right for where they came from, I guess. I don't know. Like, I want to look at this game from it was made back in 1996, and to be fair, yeah, back in 1996, those graphics were awesome. I would have liked them to have touched it up a little bit, and the fact that they didn't, I don't care. I don't think it took away from it. It just didn't add anything for me. But they were really good for 1996. Like you said, they had like 3D elements to it. Everything wasn't just flat and blocky.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the graphics are, like, this remastered version, it looks pretty nice. It's really kind of crisp and clean looking. It's still very much, it's original graphics, but I do love, the improved frame rate and just the smoothness of, like, the kind of extra polygons they threw on the gun and the character models. It does look just so much cleaner, because when you look at, original version, it's pretty blocky. And, obviously it's its time, but, I think the graphics overall, like, aren't too bad. My biggest complaint, though, with the graphics, when you're playing the base game of Quake, you are walking through a lot of the same hallways. And that kind of got a little frustrating. I always loved, whenever you start an episode, they give you, like, a space level. And I thought the space levels were the coolest. I thought the enemies were fun. The design of it was cool, and I loved it. And as you're playing the expansions, like, the second expansion is like all space, like, themed. And I am having a ton of fun with that one. That one really does so much more with the graphics. And then, as Liz was saying earlier, there's a newer expansion called Dimensions of the Machine. And it just came out. It's like a brand new one for this remake, and it's done by Machine Games. I don't know if you guys remember that studio. We played a game from them.
No? What game?
They did the new Wolfenstein. They're the people of the new Wolfenstein.
I didn't like that game either, did I?
It had a story, Keith.
So probably
no.
I think it had a deep story too. Yeah,
a little bit.
I like that one.
But you could definitely tell, like, it still very much feels like Quake, but you can tell, like, this is a modern studio that made these maps, because, as Liz was saying, like, they had, like, destructed buildings. Like, there's actually just more things in the map. When you're playing original Quake, it's a lot of just open emptiness. But yeah, playing Dimensions of the Machine, there's definitely a lot more detail in a lot of the structures and stuff. And I think they did a fantastic job. I think Dimensions of the Machine is a fun expansion.
Yeah, the entire maps just kind of looked like smoothed out Minecraft.
Actually, that's a good description.
Done by, like, a highly competent 10 to 12-year-old. Someone who hasn't put in, like, thousands and thousands of hours, but it's, like, really, really good at it.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but okay.
I don't know. That's how I'm going to describe it.
But I also wanted to ask you guys, did you guys pick up the hint as to who made the soundtrack for their Quake?
Nickelback. Actually, I do know. It's 9 Inch Nails.
Yes. Which I think is so weird.
Huh.
I guess I didn't really think about it. I meant to look up, because I noticed on, obviously, all the nail boxes, it's got the 9 Inch Nails
logo on it, yeah.
And I was like, oh, there must be some weird connection to that. I should look that up. And then I didn't. So thanks for reminding me, Andrew.
Well, I know who 9 Inch Nails are. Like, I know their music, but I can't think of a song off the top of my head.
I think you could. Well, maybe
Can
not
you think of one and tell me?
Yeah. Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds.
Yeah, but you gotta sing it.
Jeez, I don't know.
Don't bite the hand that feeds. It's all right. I just sang an example. You got one.
Is that even how the song
I know
goes?
who they are now. Okay.
I don't even know if that's the name of the song, but yeah. But honestly, I didn't even know 9 Inch Nails was a band in '96. Because, I mean, granted, I was too young.
I'm pretty sure that's like when they were popular.
Oh, it's very possible.
That was like my brother and your sister age music.
Oh yeah. Well, no, my sister was very much into, like, Boys to Men, and Boys to Men, and
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Sync.
That's
she was not a...
hold on.
My sister was too.
Who doesn't love Boys to Men though? Like,
what about Boys for Men?
No.
Are they still together? Are they still touring?
No, I think they are. I think Boys to Men is still doing their thing.
All the 40-year-old
I thought they changed their
women
name to, like, Men Now or something like that. Something
what?
stupid. Yeah, I thought they changed their name.
No,
Man.
I don't think they did.
Oh, they're Just Men Now is what they're called. Just Men.
No, yeah, they're just Boys to Men still, because that's just who the four of them are. That didn't change. They just got old. I'm happy with them being Boys to Men. NSYNC, you know what? I'll go on them. They were talented musicians, artists. I don't know if they played music, but they sang and they danced real good.
I think you called them artists.
You know.
So you liked NSYNC over Backstreet Boys?
I think as a whole, yeah. I mean, who doesn't love I Want It That Way?
I feel like that most men liked NSYNC more. I'm assuming it's a Justin Timberlake thing, maybe.
Oh, Justin Timberlake. Don't get me started.
I think it's Backstreet Boys all
This
the way.
is like, you're talking like Brad Pitt.
I went to an NSYNC concert and it was good.
And Justin Timberlake's like number 2. If we're talking about
Wait,
celebrity
what's number
crushes.
2?
My celebrity crushes. And, you know, that's a callback from another episode, Liz. I don't know if you remember.
No, I didn't hear who your celebrity crushes were. 1 and 2.
Oh, Brad Pitt number 1. I already said that.
On
on
you
12
did.
minutes. So if you want to go back and hear more about my thoughts on Brad Pitt, go back to 12 minutes and listen to that. And then Justin Timberlake, easy. He can do everything. He can sing. He can dance. He can act.
We have very different tastes.
And he's
I
also
think I should delete all of this from this
he's
episode.
also just a beautiful man.
This is getting weird.
Hey, I can say this now. I'm married. I'm just saying.
Oh man, you're making a podcast official now.
It is.
Your marriage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, get back on track. What did you guys think of the music and soundtrack?
I'm glad NSYNC didn't do it. Just kidding.
Well, obviously,
They're
your
not
shit was
bad.
Backstreet Boys.
I thought it was all right. The grunting kind of got annoying.
A little bit.
It wasn't annoying, but I just thought it was very weirdly aggressive. And I hate it. Like, it annoyed me when I would, like, stumble over, like, a twig. And I would just, you know, it would be the worst thing in the world for my character. Music-wise, I vaguely remember it. I don't know.
Nope, because there's no music.
Okay, then there's no noise at the beginning.
Not really. Okay, there's noises. So
At the beginning.
Even Nine Inch Nails says they did not create a soundtrack. They created just like an atmosphere sound.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which I feel like could be seen as
Oh,
music.
okay. There's a main menu song is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't tell me there's no music in it.
You were confusing me as to what you were describing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, when you're playing through the levels, it's a lot of just like ambient noise that you're hearing in the background. And I actually think it fits very well. It does create a very creepy vibe.
I guess.
I didn't
Sure.
hate it. I know that.
I didn't really notice anything. I was just trying to get through levels.
Keith really
I was not feeling it. I could not get excited to play this game at any
The
moment.
achievements weren't good either, so no sense of asking
I
Keith
disagree
if he thought
there.
that. Really?
Achievements. This is
Andrew
100% a
cheated.
game for achievement hunters.
Mark
And
this
is
down,
why-
Javier.
So
Take
this is
1,000
why I
off the
said-
score.
Will you stop interrupting me?
Nope.
So this is why I said there's also another reason why this game is great to play on PC. Because on PC, you can do console cheats. And they do not disqualify achievements. So there's a lot of achievements with just like beating an episode or beating the game on Nightmare. You can literally just type in God mode, turn on clip mode, and just fly through the map. And there you go. You got the achievement.
But besides cheating, I mean, I wasn't like, what if I beat a game and I don't have like a certain amount of achievements? I just feel cheated, you know? So for me, I
It's
was
ironic
kind
because
of
I literally cheated. Well, it's not cheating if it gives me the achievement. I mean, they programmed it that way. I will say though, you can still do console cheats on the console because you can use a keyboard on the Xbox. So if you just plug in a keyboard in your Xbox, you can type in and do the console cheats.
Well, question: can you crossplay multiplayer on this?
You can. All the randos we were playing with were playing on PC.
I didn't even think of that. They probably just had all of the cheats turned on, and they were just flying through the level, doing whatever they want.
I don't know. No, because they were still dying.
Were they?
Yeah,
but
they were still getting crushed every once in a while.
Yeah, I figure you could still get crushed and maybe like fall off into lava or like off of cliffs or something.
I mean, isn't that literally then not the definition of God mode?
I mean, if you fall off a cliff, what are you going to do? Just run around at the bottom of a bottomless pit because you can't die?
You could turn on fly mode. If you're cheating, you're already flying. Do that.
Maybe they didn't want to turn on fly mode. Maybe they wanted to live a little bit on the edge, Andrew.
Keith, they were using cheats.
I think
I'm
they were
sorry.
using cheats.
Okay. But yeah, so the achievements. Okay, I agree with you, Liz. If you were trying to play this legit, yeah, they're not fun achievements. There is one thing also too. If you are playing console and you are trying to do the achievements legit, I will say the achievements suck. I will straight up say, because this game straight up slaps you in the face with the achievements, because there's an achievement for beating each of the expansions on Nightmare difficulty, and they're worth 86 points. They're
not the even 5?
No. So if you get one of the achievements to beat on Nightmare, you're kind of forced to do all of them, or you're going to have the odd number achievement score, which is
Why,
rude.
I still don't get why they do that.
And I also wanted to bring up too the difficulty. So normally there's easy, normal, hard, but every episode there's a secret nightmare difficulty. And I remember I read an article saying that, they hid the nightmare difficulty because it was so hard that, they didn't want people to accidentally select it. And I was just like, that sounds very pretentious. So I tried nightmare difficulty, and I agree. I think it's very pretentious. I didn't think it's hard, but it's not like, oh, this was so hard.
Also, how stupid do they think gamers are? I know it was in 96, but they're like, oh, these gamers are probably so stupid they don't know what they're going into.
Even though it clearly says nightmare, and as you're walking up to the gate, this is nightmare difficulty.
Oh, in all fairness, I was confused with where the easy, normal, hard were at the beginning, but it tells you when you're walking in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's if someone just goes in nightmare, oh, this is hard, I'm not going to play it. That doesn't, I don't know. That's lame.
I mean, I will say it's cool. I think it is just kind of cool that you kind of have to do a secret code and everything to kind of find,
it is, but if they said oh, it's just a cool feature we did.
Yeah.
That would have been.
I would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
But the fact that I read an article where they're we're afraid someone's going to select it by accident. And I was like, nah, that's pretentious. That's dumb.
Yes, I agree. It is. I do agree though also that I think it's kind of cool that they hide it. It's more of hey, if you're really into this game and you're looking to add on a challenge, dig a little deeper and you'll find it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things of early internet, early PC of you had to go to forum boards and stuff like that to share cheats and to kind of give tips and hints. It's not 96 didn't have the modern internet where you could just Google something and boom, here it is. So it was kind of just a cool fan service thing, and I thought that's fun, and it's definitely kind of a cool nostalgia thing. But yeah, so I don't know. I think we talked enough about random boy bands. Let's get into our final thoughts here. I guess I'll go first since I let you guys do the gamer pass first. So for me, as I said, with Quake, being an older gamer, I always heard of Quake. I was way too young at the time. There was no way my parents were going to let me play this game, and they couldn't afford a PC for this. But playing it now, I think it's a lot of fun to take a trip down memory lane and see how things were back then. And there's some things in this game I think hold up. I think it's a lot of fun. I had a lot more fun with it on PC than I did console, but I think it is just kind of a fun, relaxing time. It is just very difficult to program your brain to remember to save. I will say there is a level select, so if you do end up, dying and going back a level, you can do a level select. But yeah, there's just some mechanics of it that you just got to program your brain to remember, this is how they did it back then. I got to do it this way.
Wait, so it doesn't matter if you already beat the game or not? You can pick any level?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can you get the achievement for beating everything by just jumping to the final level?
So from what I read on forums, no. It sounds like some achievements, I don't know if it's a bug, but yeah, if you jump to the final boss and beat the final boss, I don't think it quite works. But if you enter the cheat code to jump levels, then it works.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's another little caveat if you're playing this game as well. Neat. But yeah, so anyway, back to my score. Yeah, I think the graphics is this remastered, not even, touch-up version, I guess is the best way to describe it. I think it looks nice. I really enjoyed, this new expansion that came out. I think it's a lot of fun. The maps were a lot more interesting, and there also had some crazier battles because, Quake being an older game, there's not a ton of monsters on the screen, but with this new expansion, there was a couple fights that were a good 15 monsters charging us, and it was pretty hectic fun. I think this is a lot of fun, too, if you have a buddy or two to play with. You can do couch co-op. You can do online, cross-play. It is a fun. I think it's a lot of fun playing deathmatch or co-op, so you might want to check it out. I think I'm just going to give it. It's really hard to rate a game from '96. I think I'm just going to give it an 80. I don't know. An 80 seems very solid to me. I had fun with it, had my faults with it, but I enjoyed my time with it.
I'll jump in. I'll go because Liz needs to do her bit, and so I'm gonna. Again, you're right. It's hard to rate a game from 96. I'm sure if you put me back 20 years ago, 22 years ago, I would have a much different opinion of Quake.
Can I guess your score at the end?
Sure.
Okay.
So, I don't know. You just threw off my whole thing.
Sorry.
I'm sure I would have a much different score, but I'm not rating it then. I'm rating it now. And the thing is that Andrew's right. This game is most fun to be played when you have some friends, whether it's online, I guess couch co-op. I've never liked couch co-op. That's been one of the best things about online play. But you know, if you have some friends to play with, it is most fun. But honestly, don't go out of your way for it. There's plenty of other online multiplayer games that you can play that are just as fun. And I don't know, just do those ones, I think. Unless you really want to play Quake. If you really want to play Quake, then play it. Because it is a great throwback and nostalgia and all that. So a score for me is going to be...
Is it 64?
Oh, I was going to guess 59.
Oh, dang.
Because 69 is nice.
No,
It's like 10
I'm going to
lower.
do 64 because it's too old.
I
Based on
kinda-
Nintendo 64.
I kind of like that. No, I wasn't going to go with that. I mean, I was going to just say 67. I don't know.
All right, so I was close.
I don't know. It's ample. It's fine.
Ample.
I couldn't be bothered, and I don't want to play any more of it.
I feel like my score is low now, but I don't mean it in a negative way. I'm going to give it a 70 because I thought it was a good, fun, relaxing game. But I mean, I wasn't blown away by graphics, by like a lot of things. It was nice.
Yeah, this game really is just hard to give a review for because it's 96. Like, how do you review a game so old in like modern time? I don't know. I think we're just so jaded.
I'm glad that I played it. And looking online, was it on 64? Because Metacritic said it was.
Yes. Oh, that's another quick little tidbit too. So since this game actually was so like graphically advanced, quote unquote, I mean for its time it was, there was no port until Nintendo 64. And so they actually created a port in the Nintendo 64 and like they actually added some new music and they had to change some things. Like I still don't think it was able to like fully match the graphics for, you know, the PC version. But when you boot up this version of Quake, there's an add-on section and you can actually download the Nintendo 64 pack and play the game in Nintendo 64 style, which I thought was actually kind of cool.
That is cool.
Is
And
it free?
Yes, it's free.
Oh, that's
Thank
kind
you
of
for
cool.
reminding me.
And looking at Metacritic,
Sorry, Liz.
N64 was 74 and 7 for critics and users, but there's not enough data for now. TBD for Series X for critics, but 90-ish is where like the reviews are now, 80 to 90. But a lot of these are on the nostalgia train. I haven't seen any reviews for people who have never played Quake before, so that skews it a bit.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention real quick, the time to beat, you're looking about 5.5 hours for the main game. And if you're doing all the expansions, it clocked in about 9.5 hours. So not terribly long. But yeah. And I think that'll about do it for us. So thank you all so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. We love you all. I've been your hardcore gamer host, Andrew. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird at 01952. If you have a game suggestion or you just want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you guys. It always makes our day. You can email us at gamepassgrabbag@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Game Pass Grabbag, Twitter, GPGBpod.
I've been Keith, and I'll be moving on to the next game.
I'm Liz the Noob, gamertag coming on Dean. I'm on Twitter at Liz the Noob. Noob is EW, and I always procrastinate. So give me a day or two.
Hey, you
Hi,
added
everyone.
something, Liz.
Yeah, she's
What, like 150
Mixing it up a
episodes in, and you're going crazy on us. I like it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all. We love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys!